Hello and welcome to finals day at Stena Match Cup Sweden, stage 3 of the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. The locals are happy and they're all manoeuvring for position over on the rocks. They want the best seat in the house as Swedish skipper Bjorn Hansen and his Mekonomen sailing team have made it through to the final. And we're all wondering if they'll make amends for what happened last year.
Williams got pace. Hansen claiming he's avoiding. Williams claiming he was fouled. Here comes Gilmore. It's 2-2. Great set. Remember, this is do or die. Williams sailing amazingly. Williams wins Stena Match Cup Sweden.
So Ian Williams and GAC Pindar lifted the trophy in 2011 here in Sweden, but they're not through to the final this year. So maybe, just maybe, it's the year for Bjorn Hansen. And wouldn't he love to do it in front of his home crowd here and also at the place where he won his very first tour back in 2007. Well, here is what happened in those semi-finals. I'll run through the results for you. Confirmation that Bjorn made the final by pushing aside last year's winner and current world champion Ian Williams 3-1. And in the other semi, Phil Robertson was also beaten 3-1 by four-time world champion and seven-time winner at Stena Match Cup Sweden, Peter Gilmore. Well, Simon Shaw has been commentating on the races here on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. And Simon, you watched those semis. What did you make of both of our finalists?
Well, I mean, they've both been sailing fantastically. Bjorn Hansen, absolutely passionate, top of his game, firing on all cylinders, and with such, charisma in his boat. I think with this home support, he's going to be super strong. And Peter Gilmore, similarly from Yanmar Racing, really putting in the event of his season so far of 2012, possibly the season of his last 2 years. A really strong performance from him. So I think these teams both absolutely at the top of their game, perhaps a lifetime best, and it'll be really interesting to see how it plays.
One of these skippers you know particularly well because you sailed with Peter Gilmore. You're a double world champion yourself. What do you think his weaknesses and strengths are?
I suppose, Peter is a very experienced skipper, firstly. I mean, he's been sailing on this world tour since its conception, pretty much. And for me, he's got that real aggressive boat-on-boat manoeuvring really nailed. And particularly in a very precise area, his placement into the top mark, he's really shown people where to position his boat and how to manage that top mark rounding. So he's owned that top mark, he's owned a number of other areas on the race course, and that's really his strength. And
from watching and sailing against Bjorn Hansen, who it's got to be said is having a great tour in 2012, what do you think his strengths and weaknesses are?
Well, Bjorn, firstly, he sails the boat very well, particularly in these flatter water, lighter wind conditions. And I think, front to back on his boat, they all really want this. And I think they really feel like this is their year to make an impression on the World Tour. So I think the one strength those guys have is real passion and focus, combined with, obviously, a great command of match racing. They're really joining that up together, joining the dots on their performances and sailing at the very top of their game.
It looks like it could be a tense finale. You've got Peter, who's got 7 wins here at Stena Match Cup Sweden, which is phenomenal. Yeah. But also Bjorn Hansen, back-to-back finals and the winner at Korean Match Cup. Do you think this could go the distance and go to a decider?
I don't know. I think the profile of the skippers, I think, will really favour one guy getting the momentum and that really coming to play. So I think those early stages of the match will be critical. That team that really starts to mesh the performance together moment to moment may then start to build into an ascendancy and then go out to close it out. But no doubt, the home support for Bjorn Hansen may be a factor. I know it's quite tricky when you're sailing against a Swede here in Marstrand, and every time you make a mistake, everyone on the cliff top cheers, and as a sailor, you're not really used to that level of crowd interaction, and it makes such a difference. And perhaps that might also be a telling factor. It's certainly an advantage for Bjorn Hansen and his team.
Thanks, Simon. Well, we'll be going out live onto the water shortly to see who wins Stena Match Cup Sweden 2012, and also with it add some valuable points onto the overall tour standings leaderboard. Stage 3 of the tour will be concluded here today, and it will see significant movement in the overall leaderboard for this tour, the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. But of course our attention turns to who's going to win here for Stena Match Cup Sweden. Bjorn Hansen, by the way, his position is safe, so whatever happens here, he will still top the standings. So as we go out onto the water shortly, the committee boats are getting all the racing conditions ready. Let's take a look at our host regatta and introduce ourselves to this west coast of Sweden. With a population of just 1,000, Marstrand is the smallest town in the county of Västra Götaland, located in the stunning archipelago of the northern Swedish coast. It's a popular holiday destination with its cultural history, its beautiful buildings and its relaxed atmosphere. It is, however, best known for its sailing, with thousands flocking each year to watch Stena Match Cup Sweden. The island itself is free of cars, which adds to its sense of peace. And one of its biggest attractions is the 17th century fortress Karlsten, which took 200 years to complete and has played a big part in the history of the town, although it remained in military use until the early 1990s. So, with lots to see from the Smuggler's Gap to caves in which Stone Age tools have been found, there's plenty to be done in between the sailing here at Stena Match Cup Sweden. It's a picturesque setting, and you can certainly see why thousands have flocked here for the match racing, a very popular event on the tour indeed. Well, we have one final thing to bring you before we get out into the water, and that's the result from the Petit final. So Ian Williams did beat Phil Robertson 2-1 in the end in the Petit final. It keeps him just ahead of Phil Robertson and Walker Racing on the tour leaderboard. Well, we can go out live onto the water for the Stena Match Cup final, and your race commentators are Simon Shaw and skipper Torvar Murski.
Thank you. We join us out on the water on the chime of the 5 minutes. So 1 minute till entry here. Bjorn Hansen from the Mekonomen sailing team up against Peter Gilmore, Yanmar Racing. Both of these skippers, as we just discussed, sailing absolutely as well as certainly I've seen either of these teams in the last 2 years here in Marstrand. And I think it's a really hard pick to try and anticipate what's actually going to unfold here. I think we're in for a real blow by blow, all action matchup. So 20 seconds to go as the boats come into the starting area. There's the 4 minute. Peter Gilmore of Yanmar Racing coming in from the right. He will have the rights coming into this dial-up.
Here we go, the start of the final of the Stena Match Cup.
Obviously joined by Torvar Murski.
Thanks, Josie.
Veteran of the last 2 World Match Racing Tours.
I don't know who to pick here, Josie. I'd say Bjorn Hansen probably is going to be a little bit more natural to keep the boat, maybe having a bit of a fast, more natural groove around the course. Peter, I would suspect, would like a few more incidences and maybe a little bit more aggressive style.
We've certainly seen some strong sailing by both teams. For me, that key strength of Peter Gilmore, perhaps coming into that top mark, the boat-on-boat positioning. We saw some very strong sailing in that area of the racecourse from him yesterday, then again today against Phil Robertson in that early semi-final matchup. But Bjorn Hansen, I think, really coming at this whole Alpari World Match Racing Tour series with real fire in his belly. And I think it's that fire, passion, and teamwork that those guys seem to really have brought to this year's tour that may carry them through this final and perhaps see them lift that Stena Match Cup here in Marstrand in front of that home crowd.
Notice Bjorn Hansen just pulled a steel balls move, trying to turn behind Peter Gilmore, negating the advantage that Peter Gilmore had at the starboard out of the dial-up. So Bjorn Hansen leading away on port tack here. Peter Gilmore following. Pretty even sort of setup here with 2 minutes to go, and they'll be getting turning back to the line shortly, maybe around 1:30 for their final approach here. A relatively tame pre-start.
Certainly no boat really managing to get an advantage at this stage. Here comes Bjorn Hansen. He's turning down, I think, trying to take the lead.
They're actually quite high up on the start line here. You can see the start boat in the background there. Usually we'd come in for a lower angle, closer to the rocks.
I think that dial-up lasting quite a long time. Bjorn Hansen now only inches away from the stern of Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore, as both boats come back towards the line.
See Matthias on the bow there calling, swinging his arm. That means that there's clear to swing, so there's still a little bit of room, but it's obviously very close that Matthias needs to call that. You can see him putting his arm up and down there.
Getting down towards that pin lay line now.
1 minute to go, crucial time here, Shorzy. Who do you think's in front?
For me, I think Peter Gilmore perhaps a little early for that pin. It is reasonably tight between these two boats. 46 seconds to go, I think. Maybe 25 seconds to the pin. So Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing perhaps a little bit early, but it is a bit lighter condition, and often in those lighter conditions that lead position is the stronger of the two.
So that's a crucial moment there. Bjorn tacking off. I think Peter Gilmore advantage to him, and he will make that start on the left side here.
Certainly those two tacks.
20 seconds. Peter's got to keep clear here. Bjorn Hansen getting upset with his crew there. Didn't want the jib to be pulled down.
Here we go, we're going to have a split tack start. Peter Gilmore is getting what he wanted, I think. He took the lead. He's dialing in towards the left. I think that's probably the better of the two starts.
Having to tack off the start line like Bjorn Hansen did there. Advantage Peter Gilmore here.
So as both boats track up the beat, small edge to Yanmar Racing in this first pre-start of the final here at the Stena Match Cup.
What do you think about tacking now? Yes, okay. Okay, stand by. Helms down.
See the breeze blowing across the harbour here in Marstrand, creating slightly puffy and shifty conditions. And as the boats come back together for the first time, Bjorn Hansen able to get a reasonably effective lee bow in under the bow of Yanmar Racing. That a much harder move to execute these days with the changes in the rules. Both boats now tracking off towards the right. Bjorn, I think, will eventually get to Peter Gilmore on that windward quarter.
There's a tough moment. We can see Peter Gilmore here holding in, and if he can hold in all the way to the ley line here, he'll be in front. But it's a tough position to hold here in this lighter conditions, about 5 knots of wind. So really crucial moments here to see who takes the lead.
Okay, go up igen. Nej, stopp.
You can see the guys dropping the jibs in these luffs. That's a rather unconventional move, and certainly, you know, fleet racing sailors wouldn't really expect to see that happen ever. Really, the crew is so slick at getting those sails up and down, these jibs sliding on the forestays on hanks. That allows them to reduce the amount of aerodynamic drag as the boats shoot into the wind. So when you see those jibs coming down in those luffs, they're trying to preserve as much speed as they shoot into the wind as possible. And often in a luff, that can be a very effective move.
Just keep going.
Both boats separating away to opposite sides of the racecourse. Bjorn Hansen, I think, happy with that right-hand side. But as I look up the course, it does look like Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing over on this left shore, perhaps with perhaps the slightly darker patches sliding across. My nervousness is perhaps that is a right-hander. We saw some pretty big right-handers up on that shore, the wind moving further around to the right, and perhaps that favouring Bjorn Hansen as the boats come back together. We can see Yanmar Racing sailing into that darker patch of water now. It does look a little bit like a knock, and so I think that will be advantage Bjorn Hansen. And there he goes. We can hear the applause on the castle and across the rooftops here as Swedish skipper Bjorn Hansen crosses the front of Yanmar Racing. He will now round this first mark in front. So they started relatively evenly, perhaps small edge to Peter Gilmore, but as they traded blows up the beat, it was Bjorn Hansen that sniffed out the shift at the top of the racecourse, and it's he that rounds this crucial first mark ahead. Advantage Bjorn Hansen, advantage Sweden, advantage Mekonomen sailing team.
Bjorn Hansen had a better set there. Peter Gilmore struggling to get his spinnaker set in lighter winds. It's quite tricky up at the top of the course there, just underneath the rocks of Marstrand. You know, if you can be, sometimes you're really searching for that darker patch of water where the wind is stronger, and Bjorn Hansen doing a very nice job.
There's not much wind here for a long while.
See the wind very up and down. Both boats now in much lighter pressure as we come down this run, requiring a gear change on board. The sailors having to change their approach, no longer thinking about hiking, pulling and grunting. They're now back into finesse, looking to make those really fine, subtle adjustments to the spinnaker, to the settings on the sails, to the outhaul vang, perhaps even main halyard, just to try and get the very best performance out of their racing yacht. And slowly turning down, light, crisp communication with the rest of the crew. Trying to roll the boat as much as possible to help the sails fly, the keel and hull to turn through the water as hydrodynamically as possible.
We are between two. The next one to come there is a big one
Peter Gilmore taking that final look around.
We just haven't sailed in any
Just
pressure.
trying to see if there's a way back into this match.
Bjorn Hansen's actually extended on this downwind. He's only done one turn. Peter Gilmore's going to have to do another jibe into the bottom mark, into the gate. We see Bjorn taking his spinnaker down now, guiding his crew with counting down so they move their weight as one on the boat, and just really smooth.
So Bjorn Hansen round second mark ahead,
Okay, going right mark.
extending that lead. Does do attack and elects to sail through the dirty air of Bjorn Hansen. You see just coming up right there and a little bit of speed washing off, but I think that right side working for him at various points on the last beat. I think that's the way he wants to go, so that's the way he's going to sail. As Yanmar Racing, skippered by Peter Gilmore, come around that bottom mark. Sailing back off to that left-hand side. Slightly better pressure for Yanmar Racing's rounding. That will give them a better exit from that bottom mark.
Is it?
But right now, it's all Bjorn Hansen.
Kommer ju någonting här uppe som ska försöka komma i underkant på då. Ja.
Okay.
Lite philosophy knock här. Ja, säg till
You
när
can
du
see
har
there
den.
quite a big spit slowly being generated. And I can see this time perhaps we were looking to that darker patch on the left. It certainly looks darker to me in this bottom left-hand corner. I just wonder if Bjorn's over-invested in that right-hand side. The Alpari World Match Racing Tour, sponsored by Alpari and FX Trading Company. And these skippers out here trading wind, wave and water to try and navigate their way to the top of this race course in first position.
It's going to be interesting to see how this split unfolds. As you said, Shorzy, the right there, just not exactly sure was the best choice for Bjorn.
We see there, just at that top section, it seems to me like as soon as that boat's on starboard and coming in from that right-hand side, it really seems to go. We saw the way the cliffs and the way the small grandstand sailing wind interacts around the harbour in Marstrand. Sometimes it really just pays, plain and simply, to be on one or other of the tacks, and I think the swirly wind conditions perhaps creating that for Bjorn at the top right of this racecourse. And almost no matter which way you go, if you're coming in towards those cliffs on starboard at the top, I think that may be advantageous. Pressure, no pressure, or whichever.
Bjorn Hansen doing a fabulous job just picking up that top right wind. We couldn't see it from up here in the booth, but he's extended again on that right shift going to the top. He knows his way around this course, and he's going to take this race comfortably, I think, Shorzy here.
So as Bjorn Hansen rounds, the applause rings out across the castle top and the rocks here in Marstrand.
Just got to get out of here first of all. Let's not.
Commentary streamed out
It'll come back
around the whole bay here.
They're in a light patch.
So we see a view of the harbour path and then the rocks, castle and cliff tops.
Hoist. Pull back.
Over 150,000 visitors to the Stena Match Cup here on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. And every single one of the crowd are genuinely engaged and watching this sailing. Bjorn Hansen, he is their champion. I know the event organisers are elated to have a top Swedish sailor in the final. I'm sure Bjorn Hansen and his crew would see this as perhaps one of the jewels in their career's crown if they were able to close out this final and win the Stena Match Cup Sweden.
The communication between the skipper and the tactician, I think, is crucial in this racing. We can hear on board there's a lot of chat, especially in this first race, that the crews will be trying to figure out this wind strength, the subtleties of the bay, and you know, really develop their relationship and style for the remainder of this final.
You know, both these teams quite momentum based, and it's Bjorn Hansen that's able to build the winning momentum as they come round the bottom mark for a second and final time. This is a 3-lap windward leeward race. Normally the match racing, Alpari World Match Racing Tour course, 2 laps, but because we're racing across the harbour in this compact racing area here in Marstrand, the race officials electing to sail 3-lap races just to keep the amount of sailing time consistent. And this time, Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore electing to take that left-hand mark. Bjorn Hansen, I think, on this 3rd and final lap, electing to get back onto starboard that little bit sooner. Perhaps shadow Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore up this course, matching him tack for tack, really negating any opportunity for Peter Gilmore and his team to get back into this match. And as we speak, it is Bjorn Hansen and his Mekonomen sailing team that are picking up the extra breeze. There's a bigger bow wave, there's more heel. They're sat out, they're sailing fast. And Bjorn Hansen continuing to power away with this match.
I'm just so impressed with the way Bjorn Hansen and his team have picked up these shifts. I'm finding it really difficult, even from the advantageous spot that we're in, to see it, and they've just seemed to go from one shift to the next.
It's almost like those Nordic wind gods on the side of Bjorn Hansen here in Marstrand, perhaps wafting the Thor and his hammer, wafting the breeze into the sails of Bjorn Hansen, just to give him that advantage over the Japanese team, Yanmar Racing, Australian skipper Peter Gilmore.
Getting a bit tight there, we got his attention.
Very good lift.
Yep.
Communication on board again is all about, you know, describing where you are on the course, what the other boat is doing, and we can hear that relatives of Peter Gilmore's team, often Bjorn Hansen is in better pressure, higher, faster, and they're struggling to find answers on Peter Gilmore's boat.
It is always tricky when you are behind, and particularly when the guy who's in first is Bjorn Hansen, absolutely firing on all cylinders and sailing away with it.
Gone back in the wrong wind there.
And the other guy's getting it right, and you're trying to do something different. It's pretty difficult to catch up.
It's dragging spin sheet yard. Up.
2, 1, over. Ja, hiss.
Got a slow hoist by Bjorn here.
So Bjorn Hansen perhaps riding in a slightly lighter patch of breeze. He's struggling to set his spinnaker, but he's away now. And Bjorn Hansen now on the final run to the finish as Yanmar Racing tack around, and see how light the breeze is around that top mark now. The reflections kicking up off the water inside that mark. Both boats still in relatively light breeze. A slight change in the conditions here onto this final leg. But Bjorn Hansen, with perhaps a 12 boat length advantage, will still be feeling comfortable. He's just got to make sure that he stays between Peter Gilmore on board Yanmar Racing and the finish line. Match him jibe for jibe. Can actually see a little bit more breeze perhaps trickling down that right-hand side of the harbour. I think Peter Gilmore will be the first to pick it up. But Bjorn Hansen, not phased, not panicking, sailing straight, making the best of what he's got. I suspect we'll see them roll into a jibe soon. As Bjorn Hansen completes his jibe underneath the line of Yanmar Racing. Yanmar have closed up significantly on this run so far.
This race is not over. Bjorn Hansen has really just struggled on this last final downwind leg to find the wind. Peter Gilmore has picked it up quite nicely here and is making huge inroads. I don't know if it's going to be enough, but it's going to really close up this gap.
So here comes Bjorn Hansen. He has picked up the pressure now, but here comes Peter Gilmore. Can see nervous looks across from Bjorn Hansen as his team as Yanmar Racing come in from that left-hand side of the course. Both boats are coming together, and we can see there perhaps less than a boat length between the two as Yanmar Racing jibe onto the breeze of Bjorn Hansen as we come down into this finish. This perhaps the tensest area of the race so far. Yanmar Racing will be affected the breeze of Bjorn Hansen as we come down towards the bottom. There a luff from Bjorn Hansen. He's trying to force Peter Gilmore across. There's the luff. Strong communication from Bjorn Hansen, but he goes for the big luff. He comes back into the downwind. That's a green flag from the umpires, but Peter Gilmore, he is jibing across the front. There is another penalty. There's a yellow flag. So that is penalty on board Peter Gilmore. He is now going to have to try and shed a penalty in the dying moments of this race. So both boats now in the drop. We can see the pin. They are the wrong side of the finish line. Peter Gilmore in a strong position to try and hold Bjorn Hansen out here. It's all on for both boats. as Peter Gilmore turns up into the breeze. He has to complete a tack as his penalty, remember. So Peter Gilmore, he has to do a complete tack before finishing. Bjorn just has to finish, but it's Peter Gilmore that has the advantage of the position. Here goes Bjorn Hansen. He's turning down inside. He goes for steel balls. He is turning down inside. Yanmar Racing. We are going to see contact, I think. Bjorn Hansen perhaps not having water. That's certainly the opinion of Peter Gilmore. But Bjorn Hansen is in and through. The umpires are looking at this. It's complete chaos on the water. The umpires unsure what to do. Peter Gilmore, I think, gesticulating to the umpires. So there goes Peter Gilmore. He now turns down. I've seen that completion of the penalty from Peter Gilmore. I think the umpire's deciding somehow no incidents during that period, but utter chaos down at the pin. What a finale to that matchup between these two skippers. Peter Gilmore not leaving anything to chance. I think we'd all penciled him out of that match, and somehow he picked up that extra zephyr breeze. He came down that left-hand side, came back into that match, and almost snuck it right at the finish. Torva, an incredible match.
Unbelievable match. I wrote Peter Gilmore off after the first lap, and just for him to be able to pull back 12 lengths like that, it just shows what tricky conditions it is out there, and what opportunities there are for each team.
Okay, so I think we have Bjorn Hansen on board. Some reaction to that, emphatic win from him, but much closer than he would have anticipated, I suspect.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I think we did a very, very good race, but on the last downwind it was pretty light, and he came with the breeze from behind, and it was really not very much for us to do than watch him come in on us. And luckily we just got enough speed to be able to luff him at about 5 boat lengths from the finishing line, and he got a penalty, and then it was a little bit of high chaparral after that. I mean, we had one guy in the water again, and the spinnaker on the bow, and shit fight, but these guys just managed to solve everything, and that's fantastic to have these guys on board. It would be a little bit difficult otherwise, for sure.
We had a great view of that final stretch. Who'd have thought Peter Gilmore would come back into it like that? Great to hear from Bjorn Hansen. A first win. It was a loud race. I mean, the skippers here were so vocal, but also the crowd watching from the rocks. You could hear them whooping and cheering all the way into that final stretch. This could be quite a tense final, I'm thinking, and I think Peter Gilmore might think this will go down to a decider. Let's see what he has to say about that being so close.
Well, that race was not going too good for us in the early parts. He barely gave us a sniff of the action there. We kept on getting the left, but we got back into it on the last part down the run, and maybe in hindsight we should have crossed him, rather than trying to gas him. But we got to the point where we basically. Got in with a sniff, and the penalty could have been a green and we would have won the race, so such is life.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
There we go. That great reaction from both skippers, and I think Peter Gilmore sailing excellently to get any chance at all back into that match. They did a great job of picking up that pressure, and we could see that pressure slowly filling in. And when you're Bjorn, what do you do in that situation, Torva?
It's so interesting here, Shorzy. I feel like Peter Gilmore's come away with a mental win in that race. Bjorn Hansen probably felt like he actually lost it. He got the win on the board, but Peter Gilmore is just oozing confidence right now, and Bjorn Hansen's just kind of questioning himself. So I think we're going to see this is quite an even race still. There's no winners or clear favourites coming out of that, and going on that interview there, Peter Gilmore is really, feels like he deserved that one and is ready, fired up, and he understands the course and things a little bit better now.
I mean, for me, certainly, it looked to me like Bjorn had perhaps the measure of the race course a little more. It was quite difficult sailing conditions. We were struggling to call it from up here. We saw the darker patch on the water to the left, but I suspect, you know, Bjorn Hansen, obviously sailing here as local to Marstrand and to Sweden, perhaps having a little more time on the water, certainly than us, maybe not than a veteran Peter Gilmore, but he looked to have the measure of the strategy and what to employ in this quite unconventional wind direction here in Marstrand. But as you say, really nothing to pick. That comeback for Yanmar will be hugely valuable. And I think both boats, as you say, going back into this match on a relatively even footing. So we could see in that matchup, right at the end there, almost every second counts. That is the Alpari World Match Racing Tour motto. That is match racing. Let's see how that plays out.
3, 2, hoist.
Hoist, 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 hoist.
Hey, no! Come on! Ska vara uppe i dans une.
So there we go, the 5-minute flag is up. We are getting ready for match 2 here at the Stena Match Cup Sweden, Alpari World Match Racing Tour. First blood to Bjorn Hansen from the Mechalonen sailing team. He closes out that first race 1-0 against Peter Gilmore from Yanmar. Some excellent sailings, some strong points for both boats coming out of that match. But really, with only inches to pick between the boats as they cross the line, that psychological battle far from done. And as we go into match 2, it's all gloves off, match-up fighting between these two skippers, and still nothing really to pick between the performances of these two teams.
Bjorn Hansen in the second start here, entering from the starboard side, the yellow side. So any flags you see will be, with the yellow flag will be towards Bjorn, blue will be towards Peter Gilmore.
So there's entry, there's 4 minutes. As the Mechanomen sailing team roll their boat to windward to try and get it down into that starting box, and then come back up to try and dial up Peter Gilmore and his Yanmar racing team. See perhaps a little bit of port bias on the line. That really evident from the angles both boats were sailing as they came into that starting area. So I suspect we may see both boats initially fighting to be down towards that left-hand end. However, with the strength we saw in the right-hand side, I think it may be a right start to the left, really being the one that's called, possibly a attack start with timings to the pin. So it'll be interesting to see how clever and advanced the starting strategies of these two teams are. That quite a detailed start to really outline detail, to know how to fight for. It's quite unusual to be wanting to start to the right, but being on your timings for a start to the left. And it'll be interesting to see whether the timing and strategy being deployed by these two boats is sophisticated enough to actually execute that start. So
that's quite advanced tactics you're talking about there, Shorzy. Also, I think quite relevant in these conditions, quite light. So as Bjorn Hansen on the starboard side here is still holding his advantage from the pre-start, trying to keep the Peter Gilmore on the left side and away from the start line. So if Peter can get out of this situation, they'll be looking to start probably towards the red marker, the pin end of the line. And then, as you said, Shorzy, that right side of the course upwind.
But as this plays out, really, it's Peter Gilmore that's in some respects on the ropes here. We see the spinnaker being deployed. Peter Gilmore's been dialed up not once but twice. The spinnaker is caught on that second set of spreaders, but it is still drawing. It will give him that little bit of extra speed, perhaps enough to get around the bow of Bjorn Hansen and the Mekonomen sailing team. Disaster strikes for Pittman Yaji and Baumann Safuku. That an interesting move, but I don't think Yanmar Racing were really able to make that count. They can't get across the bow of Bjorn Hansen, and it doesn't matter where either of these boats would like to start. Bjorn Hansen still has Peter Gilmore on the ropes in the corner. He's got him pinned out, and with only 1:20 to go, it's all Bjorn Hansen here. And usually Bjorn actually electing to let Peter Gilmore jibe there. I'm surprised by that. He had him boxed out, he had him trapped to the left of the racecourse, and there, just in the final moments, in that final 1:20, he lets him slide away to that right-hand side. So, for me, perhaps throwing some advantage back to Peter Gilmore, but Bjorn is still in a strong position. It is light conditions. With only a minute to go, Bjorn Hansen tacks under the lee of Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore. Excellent positioning from Bjorn there, completing his tack with only inches separating the boats.
Critical moments here, Shorzy. I think Peter Gilmore's early, so he's going to have to do a circle around. Bjorn Hansen's going to tack on top of Peter here and head over.
For me, that a turn, a circle with 30 seconds to go. Potentially very painful for Yanmar Racing, but Bjorn Hansen is going to have to do a tack himself.
Peter Gilmore in great shape here, keeping the boat smooth. Bjorn Hansen struggling to find some speed and will be turning up inside Peter, hopefully with enough speed to hold on. Bjorn Hansen will have to go out to the right. Peter Gilmore off to the left. Peter Gilmore at the favoured end of the line. Bjorn Hansen hopefully with enough speed to be able to get back over to that right and get that right shift we're talking about.
So there, Bjorn Hansen perhaps getting that start to the right towards the left that we were talking about earlier, but crucially, I think a little underspeed. Peter Gilmore was building all the time in that final 28 seconds. He did do that jibe, which I was nervous for him, but he did have enough time to get it back up to speed, and Bjorn Hansen with attack at 15 actually started slower than him. So in boat speed terms, advantage Peter Gilmore as they exited that line, but Bjorn Hansen, I think, the first to pick up a little bit of extra speed. Peter Gilmore, I think we heard a bit of communication. They were talking about being slightly lighter. And if I look up the race course now, it is Yanmar Racing perhaps in the lighter of the conditions still. Bjorn Hansen powering. And when the boats come back together, I'm not sure there's going to be much to pick between the two.
We can see on the screen here just some darker and lighter patches. Bjorn Hansen tacking into that dark patch. Peter Gilmore turning to the left a bit, a little bit of a lift as well, so there's two different pressures there in here. This cross is a crucial moment, and I think Bjorn Hansen has done quite a good job here to pick up some extra wind and be in this race here.
To this slight advantage to Bjorn Hansen, he tacked for me in an absolutely perfect place on that gust. And I think taking that advantage to cross again from the right side, Bjorn Hansen and the Mekonomen sailing team showing the power of the right-hand side of this racecourse. Keep here to say, right is king. It certainly is so far today.
Come on, Terry,
Bjorn Hansen winning the cross and the first blood in this race by taking the right, but then letting Peter Gilmore get to the right of him here. See what happens. Peter Gilmore with a small sniff. Bjorn Hansen just comfortable to let him stay behind him, but a little bit to the right.
Big righty coming here. Yeah.
He's trying now. For me, he's crossing.
So here we go. Here comes Bjorn Hansen. He's going to try and tack. You can see Peter Gilmore. He is altering a little bit. Oh, holding kind of. So there for me, Peter Gilmore perhaps slightly altering up, but you can't fault a little bit of gamesmanship.
Oh, come on, you guys.
I think the umpire's perhaps reading that small alteration in Peter Gilmore's course. But irrespective, it's Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore that still have that right-hand advantage over Bjorn Hansen. But Bjorn Hansen will be faster. Now can he build again and look to tack and get around? That'll be the question.
Should attack him, Fred.
And most crucially, Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore building the whole time in the gas of Bjorn Hansen. So Bjorn Hansen having perhaps made a small mistake looking for that tack, ultimately coming out of that situation unscathed in penalties. And now with what will be a 3 to 4 boat length lead as we exit this top mark. That lighter pressure at the mark really affecting and damaging the progress of Yanmar Racing. Entering so slowly, they've been unable to build speed the whole time, and only now as they get to that new pressure are they starting to sail away.
Okay, that's a lefty. Look at the red flag, it's a lefty. Yeah, that's right. Okay, jibing.
Can see another vein of breeze coming down that left-hand side. Gilmar reading that as a left-hand pressure. Not sure. I feel that left side is one of those slightly mysterious sides of the racecourse where it always looks like there's good pressure, but somehow whenever you go there, it doesn't seem to work out for you. I don't know what you think, Tor.
Yeah, I can see some darker patches on this left side, but Peter jibed, I think, in a light spot to try and get over to it. I think he was just trying to be aggressive to do something different to Bjorn here. Bjorn was in a great positioning after that top mark, and I think Bjorn's just very well set up here.
Okay, jibing.
Okej. Faller. 2, 1 och upp. 2, 1 och upp.
So as Bjorn Hansen jives back across, the boats will come back together.
Yeah.
Vänster märker
I
gubbar.
think we can see this match still very close between these two teams, but Bjorn Hansen holding on to that 2 boat length advantage. We come down to this first bottom mark. This final so far, all the Bjorn Hansen show as we come down to this bottom mark. The Mekonomen sailing team. Mekonomic as they get every single strategic decision right. They're sailing perfectly and just not giving Yanmar Racing a way back into this final.
Okay, one boat, ready.
Expect to see a split from Peter Gilmore here. Bjorn Hansen doing a right turn. I expect Bjorn Hansen to protect that right side again, which was so powerful in the last race and legs.
Yeah.
So I think Yanmar Racing and the Peter Gilmore have gone left just one too many times, and this time they're around the bottom mark and they're, hey, this time we're going right. We're not making that mistake again, Bjorn Hansen. We know how to go right too, and that's exactly what they're doing. They've taken a small loss by going to the non-favoured gate. I think that left hand of those 2 marks perhaps slightly more favoured, but now it's Peter Gilmore that has more heel. He has a little more pressure. He's the one tracking out further to the right. Let's really see how that plays out for them as we come away up this second beat in this second final matchup of the Stena Match Cup Alpari World Match Racing Tour.
Ska vi gå i underkant på den här, eller? Vi är jävligt låga här. Ja, det kan komma upp.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Här nere nu.
Okay. Stand by.
So here goes Peter Gilmore. He's coming out of the right side. Fleeting on to starboard. Bjorn Hansen looks to be high and in reasonable pressure. I think he's held on to it here.
Right.
2, 1 och upp.
Right.
Så jobbar vi fart till det här.
Yeah.
There goes Bjorn Hansen. He's on his line.
Ja, det är bra.
As both boats track back across the course into this top section of the racecourse.
No, backstay with the main. need full power. Ease, Terry.
Ser du fallet där, Mattan? Om du ska kasta det rätt.
Hansen just looks to have a little bit more pressure all the time.
Good, lovely.
Special Swedish win for the Swedish team.
Those Nordic wind dogs
Yeah.
really playing
Okay, nice game. Right
hand
now,
to
guys. Great game.
Bjorn Hansen and his metronome sailing team.
We're going to be right on him here. We'll be right on his stern here. Trim on, trim on.
Here comes
Trim on.
Peter Gilmore. I think picking up that same breeze that Bjorn Hansen has and now tacking around the mark. So closing that distance down in the dying moments of that beat. But Bjorn Hansen still ahead as the Stena Spinnaker flies on board Yanmar Racing.
Last race he was 12 lengths behind and he almost won. He's still well in striking distance, Peter Gilmore. Bjorn Hansen has to protect this run and he can't really sail freely. He has to sort of watch what the other Peter Gilmore's team are doing and just protect his lead. So it's going to be a tight run down this last leg.
A review from Yanmar Racing down to the crew of Bjorn Hansen. Peter Gilmore, the skipper, doing absolutely everything he can to try and attack the breeze of Bjorn Hansen. That starts with a rolling jibe down across the line of his breeze. Bjorn Hansen sailing cool and calm. I think Peter Gilmore hoping to almost trick Bjorn Hansen into jibing with him there.
Yeah.
So that's first blood for this run to Bjorn Hansen if Peter Gilmore's jibing first. Peter actually picking a little shift here and Bjorn Hansen looking a little bit light.
I'm surprised we saw Bjorn jibe there and electing to carry on. For me, he should have sailed to a position where he was air clear or laying the marks. To me, he may just be laying that right-hand mark now, but I would have gone another couple of lengths if I'd been. I think he's going to have to soak down. And I think he was certainly in gas for a section of that run as Peter Gilmore again jibes across the air of him. And suddenly it's Yanmar. They're coming down towards this bottom gate. They're sailing fast. They're sailing clean.
Jibing, jibe main.
Bjorn Hansen, I think, making a late change to go into that right-hand mark. The Audi Spinnaker down on his boat as the Stena Spinnaker drops on Yanmar Racing, and it's game back on here in this matchup between these two skippers. Only lengths separating them as we come around this second bottom mark.
Lifting. It's good lift here for quite a while.
Okej, då går vi här, gubbar.
Quite a lot of separation here. Peter Gilmore on a very good angle. If the wind shifts left at all, that he'll be right back into this race.
Me looking at that pressure, I'd like to see Peter Gilmore tack perhaps in about 3 lengths. We can see a little band of breeze there as he tracks across towards this left-hand side.
Okay.
We just got to be careful of that right-hand breeze.
Helms down, tacking over.
There goes Peter Gilmore. Now this is a critical moment for him. We've seen that right-hand side
Just average,
often favoured. There we can see Bjorn Hansen again making that right-hand side pay.
He's to that. Is he still caving?
It's incredible how powerful that right-hand side has been. It's just every time that if you get over to that right side first, you pick up that shift and you're just so solid there.
It seems to me like every time Bjorn Hansen goes right, it pays. Every time anyone else does, it doesn't. For me, there are sides that really you want to be following Bjorn Hansen, and the only chance of doing that and winning is trying to be ahead. And I don't see how Peter Gilmore really can find a way back into this match. Everything Bjorn Hansen touches turns to gold right now as he powers back away to a 3 to 4 boat length advantage over Yanmar Racing. And that to me looks like another righty as Peter Gilmore completes onto port. And so having rounded the marks ahead, and I didn't really see Peter Gilmore do anything wrong on this beat. Suddenly it's Bjorn Hansen by 5-6 lengths.
Ja.
Smyger vi här.
Stand by.
2, 1 och upp hela vägen. Ja, och så bomisen. 2, 1, go!
So as Bjorn Hansen opens out, again the clock at the top mark.
Vart vill du nu?
Spinnaker sets and draws as Yanmar Racing comes up to round the top mark as well.
Okay, ease Fred, hoist.
Och håll in den här när vi kan, va?
At the moment, Peter Gilmore, Yanmar Racing with no answers to the strategy, speed and sailing skill of the Mekonomen sailing team, skippered by Bjorn Hansen,
Ease Kiri when you can.
here in this final matchup of the Stena Match Cup.
Ja.
Ja. Vill du initiera till och med, eller?
Bjorn Hansen out of this top mark has got a good line on Peter Gilmore. Usually the boat behind is trying to be inside the line of the boat ahead so you can go and jibe onto their gas when the first manoeuvre happens. Peter Gilmore doesn't quite seem to be able to be in an attacking position at all and just sort of searching for anything to catch back up to Bjorn Hansen here.
2, 1 och upp!
He's got a huge one in front of us there, Fred.
Jag skulle vilja gå med honom om han gippar. Det är velocity, Ja. Håll in stolen lite snabbt.
So,
Ja.
stand by to jibe. Jibing.
Går vi med, va? Okej, faller. 2, 1 och ut.
So I think
Tidig
what we need to
suggare.
do, Fred, is give the
2, 1 och upp.
whole pre-start a complete rethink because he started on the
Bra
right,
jobbat.
held the right.
Kan ta bort bommen där.
So as we come down to the finish, it is Bjorn Hansen and the Mekonomen sailing team.
Bra gubbar, en till.
Start we wanted.
Good old Bjorny, he's popular on the tour, and he's certainly popular with this Swedish crowd as we come into this bottom mark. The grandstand in front of me is erupting with applause. A standing ovation for this team from Sweden on home soil. He's now 2-0 up against Peter Gilmore from Yanmar Racing. The Audi Spinnaker comes down, the Stena Spinnaker comes down, and Bjorn Hansen takes this final to match point against Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore. Bjorn and his team just can't help a wave to the crowds as they come down to the bottom of the racecourse. There we see what a mental ordeal match racing is. Bjorn absolutely exhausted after that gargantuan effort of sailing against Peter Gilmore. I know the crowd's absolutely loving this here in Marstrand.
Inte frush, men vattenmjölk liknande.
So I think we're going to join Lindsay Hooper on the water with some updates from the different boats.
I've made my way to the committee boat and I'm joined by Tour Director Craig Mitchell, and you can update us on this course because at the moment 2-0, pretty emphatic for Bjorn Hansen so far.
Yeah, the racing's going really well. The course is quite nice. Wind direction is not ideal for here. We'd like to be running up and down the fjord, but what we're trying to do now is we're just trying to move the course a little bit, try and extend it just to get the maximum time out of the race. And you know, we're doing that right now, and we'll be getting underway in about 2 minutes.
The crowd has been really impressive here as well. I know that you've done this course so that people can still see plenty of the action. Explain what you did early on.
Well, we're really trying to get as close as we can to the spectators, to bring them really close to the action. We can't get much further down towards them because of the length of the course. So we're in the best position we can be here.
Well, the man that's got to fight back, but he knows how to do it because he's done it plenty of times before, is Peter Gilmore and Yanmar Racing, and I think we can hear from him now.
Well, I think it's it's a tough one to come back from here with 2-0 down, but I'm a big believer in just all you need to do is win your last race, and so if we can put that out of our mind and just basically try and get control of these starts. We've had pretty good, got what we wanted in both the starts, which is start to leeward and on the port side, but the wind has just been so fickle. I think we've got going to have a complete rethink of our strategy, try and start to the right of them and see if we can punch their lights out from there.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
How about that? Peter Gilmore almost writing himself off at the start of that interview, and then saying he's gonna come back fighting. So he really knows that the advantage to Bjorn Hansen and the mental win in that race to Bjorn Hansen was huge. Peter Gilmore really thinks he's got to totally change his strategy to come back from here.
So throwing back to Lindsay Hooper back on the water.
So we heard from Peter Gilmore, thank you Simon, and we really want to hear from the leader at the moment, Bjorn Hansen. The home crowd, we've heard the whoops and cheers. I'm wondering if he can make it a 3-0 whitewash, but we know that Peter can come back. What does Bjorn make of his racing so far?
Yeah, that was another good race from our side. It seems like the right is paying off a little bit, and we managed to take the right in both starts so far. But it was really tight up at the first rounding. But now it feels very good, and I mean we're enjoying what we're doing and having fun on board, and we're just thinking about if we want to be out here for 5 matches or if we should try to win the next one. But no, it's a good feeling on board Mekonomen sailing team, that's for sure, and we're going to go for a 3rd win now.
Still sounding very calm indeed. Now, as the race committee sort out the course, they're going to lengthen it slightly, so there should be a slightly longer race, but still 3 laps to go. Bjorn Hansen, of course, can have a pep talk with his team members. We saw someone go overboard earlier. I'm just wondering if he's okay, but apparently so. And Peter Gilmore will have his strategy about how he can come back, which he has done many times before, as we've seen at Match Race Germany and in the Korean Match Cup. What is he made of? Is it going to be Mr. Nice or Mr. Angry from Peter Gilmore next?
So welcome back to the final of the Stena Match Cup here on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. You join us again at match point in the final between Bjorn Hansen and the Mekonomen sailing team and Peter Gilmore, Yanmar Racing. Bjorn Hansen with that 2-0 advantage going into what will be a must-win match for Yanmar Racing. Peter Gilmore and his crew from Japan. We scroll down to the committee boat. We can see Tour Director Craig Mitchell up on the bridge, keeping an eye on proceedings. We're inside that 7-minute sequence. Next flag will be the 5.
On the start boat there, you see the 3 at the front for 3 laps.
So they're just confirmation of the scores so far. Firstly, that petty final we sailed before the live TV window. Ian Williams from Great Britain, GAC Pindar, winning that over Phil Roberts from New Zealand, Wacker Racing Team. So Ian gets that all-important 3rd position. Valuable points for all these skippers in the overall Alpari World Match Racing Tour. So a key win for him in that petty final. But it's all about the final. That's what these crowds have all come to see. That's what the viewers at home and us in the commentary box all want to see. We've heard the 5-minute gun sound. We're under starters orders. Now can Bjorn Hansen close this match out 3-0? I know he'll be doing everything in his power to do so. Or will Peter Gilmore of Yanmar Racing be able to come back and snatch a win and start his comeback to try and claim the Stena Match Cup?
Interesting tactics here, Peter Gilmore. You just got to, if you can knock one race out and win that, pull back that mental race over the other team, then you can get some momentum going your way, and as suddenly 3 races could be yours. It often happens in sailing, coming down back from 2-0 down. Peter Gilmore, a champion guy, he's done it many times, and we're just interesting to see him change up his tactics here and see how he handles this race.
I suspect he is going to affect some changes. They haven't had the measure of the strategy so far. It's been all Bjorn Hansen. We have seen that right-hand side paying as a sound signal chimes on the top of the committee boat, that indicating a blue top mark that is to the right-hand side. We have seen those shifts drifting in that direction across the day, so no real surprise. The race management here, one of the best in the world. Great communication with the competitors, the shore alike. Spotting that shift and calling in that new top mark. So we will be going to a blue windward mark as the boats come into wind. The Lotus clock in the top right-hand corner indicating 3 minutes 20 to go.
Alternating of which end the boats arrive into the pre-start. Peter Gilmore this time the yellow boat, so umpire flags with yellow will be to Peter Gilmore. Bjorn Hansen blue here. Peter Gilmore just tacking out of the dial up here. Bjorn Hansen following, so no real advantage to the starboard side here.
It's all fair and love and war at this point, but Peter Gilmore unable to hold on to Bjorn Hansen in that dial up, and both boats now leading away. Peter still with that right hand side, but not enough separation to come back and dial up the team of Bjorn Hansen. So both boats just tracking away to the right. Perhaps a more conventional pre-start from these two boats. Bjorn able to dominate that last exchange, keeping Peter Gilmore on the ropes right up until the dying stages of this starting sequence. Fred and Thierry, the engine room of Yanmar Racing, there in the middle, the tactician and trim team. Yaji and Fuku with Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore since Nippon Challenge, the America's Cup in 2000. Perhaps a little earlier.
He is pretty old.
But both these teams very experienced. Two of the most established names in Alpari World Tour match racing history, I suppose.
1 minute 30 here. Peter Gilmore right up next to the rocks here and just trying to slow down. So using the rocks here, slowing down, not letting Bjorn go behind him, between him, Peter Gilmore and the rocks, and just slowing the game up. 1 minute 15 to set up for this final approach back to the start line.
So here they go, 1 minute 10. We saw Peter Gilmore Yanmar Racing, a master of using the rocks in the last match, absolutely dominating Phil Robertson and his team in this area of the pre-start and sailing. And it looks like he's deploying the similar strategy again here, dominating that ley line back to the committee boat, preventing Bjorn Hansen from getting to that right-hand side of him. As they lead back towards the start, Bjorn forced to take that higher line. He will dive down to try and attack the stern of Peter Gilmore, but with only 41 seconds to go, not a huge amount of time for him really to affect anything within this pre-start.
Peter Gilmore, I think, is trying to be quite aggressive to try to get that right-hand side of the course, which has been so favoured. So he's set up differently here, and I think he's going to win the right-hand side here.
With 20 seconds to go, I think we will see Bjorn starting in that windward position, but for me, Peter Gilmore doing a better job of shutting down that start for Bjorn Hansen. Both boats right down by the pin before. There was a bit of pin bias, but this time Bjorn tacking onto port with far less space. It's going to be a very slow and crazy start for Bjorn Hansen. That's one tack, that's two, all in the dying moments of the pre-start. Yanmar Racing dialing for speed the whole way through the final 20 seconds, so it's them that shoot off this left-hand end of the line. But they have left Bjorn quite a lot of space up there. I would like to have seen Peter Gilmore roll straight into attack, go up and attack the line of that. Instead, he's allowed Bjorn Hansen to build up to speed, so now as the boats come together, they will be match speeds. If he'd gone straight away off the start line there, he would have got up to Bjorn Hansen's line. Bjorn would have been slower than him. And those subtle decision-making differences, the real subtlety of pre-start strategy, perhaps not the ultimate strength of Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore, and I think that's showing there, and I think handing the advantage back to Bjorn Hansen, having ultimately dominated the entire pre-start timing.
We've got it. Okay, stand by.
There's a big moment to see Peter's tacking here to see if he can make this cross or if he has to duck behind Bjorn Hansen.
He looks like he may just make it. It's going to be very close. Bjorn Hansen, I think, just turning up for him a little bit. It's going to be very tight between these two boats.
He made it.
There goes Peter Gilmore. He gets out of that corner. All is forgiven. As long as you cross out of that corner, you can stay there as long as you like. But for me, that a big risk, but he did manage to get out. He now has that right-hand side at, crucially, the top where we saw the majority of those right-hand gains coming into play. So could this be Peter Gilmore's race? Could this be Yanmar's opportunity to get back into this final?
Okay. I'm worried that they're going to get this one, Fred. I think we had a chance to get in there. Like, you're not looking to the left. Okay, all right. Okay. Oh, come on. This is what I'm saying. We're on a low heading.
So here goes Peter. He's certainly taking the right this time as he disappears.
Yeah, but he's moving, that guy.
Back
so
almost out of the archipelago off to that right-hand side. We can see the blue mark. It's a long way out of the harbour. This wind direction, very unconventional. I've certainly not raced a huge amount.
But look at it.
Peter getting a little bit ruffled here. Bjorn Hansen finding a left shift here, and Peter's complaining now to his crew that they didn't tack up onto Bjorn, and it's going to be interesting to see if Bjorn has actually lifted so much up that he might even be in front here.
So that a left-hander. So after it being all right to the top, it's Bjorn Hansen that's perhaps snatched a bit of left-hander. But for me, Yanmar Racing still strong as we come back together.
Yeah, yeah.
Peter Gilmore, a master of momentum here. He will be bow down, charging. And as Bjorn completes his tack, we'll see Peter Gilmore turn back onto the breeze. Suspect Yanmar Racing going to dominate the exchange into this mark. Bjorn there tacking perhaps a little late. I think he may get affected a little by Peter Gilmore as he tacks around.
Let it go, Fred, let it go.
So Yanmar Racing, for the first time, leading round this top mark.
Hold forward.
Perhaps not needing to get so ruffled with his team there. Shorzy, Peter Gilmore safe on that ley line, took the lead, is comfortably had a solid rounding against Bjorn Hansen here.
I think perhaps Peter's just looking to make the best of that leading advantage and perhaps hoping to have been able to bounce Bjorn Hansen back again to that left-hand side as they approach the top. But as you say, I think that just frustration of the first time that Peter Gilmore had dominated a beat, managed to get to that right-hand side. That the first time today we've seen the breeze ultimately perhaps go a little bit back to the left. So I think really just the wind gods continuing to shine on Bjorn Hansen. For me, that not completely unpredictable. We had seen a significant shift back to that right-hand side now. So as the wind perhaps phases, as the wind changed actual direction, I don't think you could necessarily expect the breeze to be skewed and continue to structure in that right-hand direction. So perhaps, as you say, slightly unnecessarily and ruffled frustration coming out of Peter Gilmore. But let's not forget, this is the final. This is for the Stena Match Cup. This is both skippers, you know, fighting to be right at the top of the leaderboard on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. And this, the 7-time Stena Match Racing champion, Peter Gilmore, 4-time world champion. He's on the ropes here. He's too near down. He's sailing against Bjorn Hansen, a rival of current, a rival of old. And I know he'd be desperate to get back into this match.
Okej, även om han tar den. Ja. Jag går på Per faller. 2-1 upp. 2-1 upp.
Yeah. I like the right.
I really like Bjorn Hansen's jibes and the way he's constructing his crew to move together.
Okay, jibing.
I've been very, as you say, impressed with their sailing through the board. Perhaps one of the smoothest and strongest boat handling that we've seen. Yeah. Huge explosion of frustration again from Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore. They want that left-hand side. Bjorn Hansen, I think, coming in and forcing Peter to take this other mark. Peter's gutted, and it's all on again. And from a 2 to 3 boat length advantage, Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore.
What are we doing?
I think there's a lead change here, Shorzy. I think there's a lead change. Bjorn Hansen did a better jibe, had more speed around the gate there, and is on the right. I can't see Peter Gilmore still being in front here.
It's touch and go between these two boats, and I think Torvar, you picked up on the fact that those jibes from Bjorn Hansen were super good, and I think Peter Gilmore perhaps leaning on his tactician and their strategic decision-making, but I think perhaps those rolls and the kinetics and just the general sailing of the boat also being a factor as both boats came into that bottom mark. Bjorn Hansen sailing his boat absolutely inch perfectly, perhaps giving him a slight boat speed advantage, allowing him to close into Peter Gilmore as they came into that bottom mark. And now it is all on. Now Peter Gilmore, Yanmar Racing, fighting for their place in this final at the Stena Match Cup. So this is it, Torvar. This is where we're going to see both boats have tacked. They are coming back together.
We knew we had to go to the right mark and we just gave it away.
Peter Gilmore doing the commentary for us as they come back together. We can hear the frustration on board Yanmar Racing. And I think we're going to see Bjorn Hansen tacking under the bow of Yanmar Racing. Now, has he got it right? Yanmar Racing dive for that inside.
Stand by. Helms down.
So they are going to have to tack away, and the body language and talk on board Peter Gilmore's boat, I think, you know, telling the story, absolutely frustrated with that perhaps slightly weak sailing and decision-making into that bottom gate, giving that advantage to Bjorn Hansen. And now as we come up this second penultimate beat in this matchup in this final, Bjorn Hansen in that all-familiar right-hand lead position.
It's a lead change, Shorzy. Bjorn Hansen has his grips on this final race.
Dare we say one hand on the trophy as Bjorn Hansen comes up towards this top mark. The Swedish crowds all on their feet here on the top, just all peering around each other's heads, trying to snatch as good a view as they can. The boats, almost nothing between them. Absolute silence, everyone gripped by this comeback by this Swedish skipper.
Peter Gilmore tried to hold Bjorn Hansen out there. There's going to be an umpire call here. Bjorn Hansen tacking in front of Peter and getting away with it. Peter really desperate for a situation there, and it's not worked for him. He's probably even lost just a half a length.
So there you could see the orange marks creating the exclusion zone, which precipitated Bjorn to call for room to tack. Philip Gould, the trimmer, is making the final turns around the mark. Very impressed with his sailing so far this regatta. You see him giving everything to try and make that boat fast all the time.
I think Peter's getting very desperate here to try and just have a contact, have an umpire decision.
Did you flag him?
So we see there's some consideration by the umpires there. I don't think they were certain about that, but ultimately the green flag as the Audi and Stena Spinnaker come down the run. Both absolutely key commercial partners here at the Stena Match Cup Sweden. Perhaps one of the dominant events on this Alpari World Match Racing Tour.
Sorry?
See here, Peter's just on that windward hip of Bjorn, which means he's not in the best position for when they jibe. Peter will be trying to work down to the right-hand side, the leeward side of Bjorn here, so that he can attack on the next jibe.
Okay.
There we can sing the praises of Bjorn Hansen
Too.
all day, but Peter Gilmore, Yanmar Racing, there are only meters separating the boats at this point, and this race far from won for either skipper. One thing we can be certain of, we've seen Peter Gilmore come back before, and he's certainly going to try and come back now.
Pull back, guys. Pull back out of this one. Pull back, yeah. Do you want pull back?
Bjorn Hansen looks like he's got good speed there, and Peter Gilmore jibing first means that he won't be able to affect the air of Bjorn out of this, so it'll just be about keeping it close with Peter, picking the shifts. Bjorn is just defending and should be able to hold on to the lead, but just has to watch out for Peter not being, trying to extend.
Okay.
Peter Gilmore working as hard as he can, I can think, trying to slightly soak down to get to the breeze of Bjorn Hansen as they come down towards this bottom gate. Bjorn Hansen sailing quite hot. Try and keep his air clear.
Fred?
Ja, så det kommer bli en jipp runt här, så vi gör grejerna i tid nu.
Okay.
Here comes Bjorn Hansen. I'm almost certain we'll see Bjorn line up for that right-hand gate. I think the really hard decision for Yanmar Racing and Peter Gilmore is this last chance saloon, am I going to go for that right-hand mark, or am I going to follow Bjorn Hansen around?
I think ideally Peter would want to be going the same mark as Bjorn, but doesn't want Bjorn to be going there.
So for me, I'll expect Peter to take the opposite mark. For me, the boat's too close to around the same one.
2, 1,
Okay, drop.
And as Bjorn rounds, Stena Spinnaker disappears down on Yanmar Racing. This is the final opportunity for Yanmar Racing to pull something from the bag, get back into this match. This is the final lap. It's do or die now for Yanmar Racing.
Who's got best pressure?
It just seems to be a really good line of wind there for Bjorn. He's just, you can see on the water, there's a dark patch that is just there for them. Peter's team, Yanmar Racing, are not quite into that one.
Ligger ju fint i underkant här, man. Ja, alldeles strax, va? Nu, eller?
Trim it up. Big trim.
2, 1, upp.
It's left, isn't it?
Not at the compass. We are back on average.
Brisen till vänster om oss, håller du med?
Well, much lower than this coming into the top that first time. Stand right.
Långt down och lite till, eller?
can't believe that's a right angle. This seems so low. Fred, I think you're all whacked up.
Kommer där under talgen så går
On the compass.
Jag kommer upp. Säg när du vill ha det bara. Här eller?
Yeah, I can see that.
Och där. Två.
So we come up this final beat.
Okay, stand by.
Yanmar racing off to this left-hand side. Bjorn Hansen to the right. But as Yanmar racing tax, it looks like it's all Bjorn Hansen here on this final lap.
Vågar inte in i hörnet där. Lyfter det givetvis här. Ligga kvar lite eller? Och så kommer ni mot det, så kommer vi att gå. Ja, går vi här.
10 boat lengths in front of him.
To their forlorn faces.
2, 1, upp.
You can see a lot of talking and gesticulating from Peter. I can't hear the words he's saying. I'm sure it's a combination of disappointment, really, for this Yanmar team. They sailed such a strong regatta. And to look up the racecourse and watch your final lap and see somebody that sailed inch perfect pretty much the whole regatta in such a position of strength. It's hard to see how they can come back. We saw him nearly come back in the first match from a far worse position. Let's see if he can snatch something out of the bag in the dying moments of this race here.
Kommer vara tryck så hiss direkt bara gubbar.
Hope it comes.
Vad sa du?
Here it comes.
Final hoist by Bjorn Hansen. Perfect spinnaker hoist there. Jib coming down, spinnaker popping just on the mark. Good speed, nice turning.
Hoist, hoist.
So there goes Yanmar racing. There's the Stena spinnaker, it's up. And the chase is on down to the finish. He's going to have to find something from somewhere to come back into this matchup.
Som att det minskar trycket ut här. Det till och med så att jag skulle kunna tänka mig initiera här.
You're soft, are you, Terry?
Ja, kanske inte. Det är inte långt innan vi når ner alltså.
Pull back.
Kommer, ja.
Now we got a jibe here, guys. Jibing.
Okej, vi går på gips här. Faller, faller, faller. 2, 1 och upp. 2, 1 och upp.
So as the Audi spinnaker pops on Bjorn Hansen's boat, he completes his jibe.
Hålla styrborden va?
Onto starboard and tracks across the racecourse, staying always between the finish and the Stena spinnaker of Yanmar Racing. As we approach just past the halfway point on this final run into the finish here at the Stena Match Cup.
Bjorn Hansen got his pole quite, oh, he's moving it back. He's sailing quite a high angle just to get in front of Peter Gilmore's wind, making sure he has clear air. And now that he's got his pole back, he's sailing his normal line and seems quite comfortable with his air in front of Peter.
So we talked about momentum, and it's Bjorn Hansen that got the momentum in the first match. It's Bjorn Hansen that kept the momentum in the second match, and most crucially, it is Bjorn Hansen that has come back and has kept the momentum in this second match as we come down towards the finish. It is Bjorn Hansen and his Mekonomen sailing team from Sweden at his home event here in Marstrand that is coming down towards the finish. This is the final of the Stena Match Cup Sweden, an iconic event here in the world of match racing, but most particularly here in Sweden. The crowd in front of me in the grandstand are all on their feet. They are ready to welcome their champion home from Sweden in through the finish line. I can feel the hearts and tensions and pulse races raised through the crowds, through the sailors. The applause is starting to ring out across the cliffs, across the castle top here at the Stena Match Cup. Consolations from Peter Gilmore to his crew. But it's Bjorn Hansen from Sweden that crosses the line to win the Stena Match Cup. The horns sound across the harbour, and rightly so. He is the champion. He sailed better than any other sailor here. The crews punch the air and they celebrate this win here of the Stena Match Cup. A historic year, a historic win. What a performance from skipper Bjorn Hansen. Look at that, the waves to the crowds on board. Congratulations between the teams. It's incredible what this means to both of these skippers and their teams. Not a familiar sight on the Alpari World Match Racing Tour. They won in Korea and they've won here in Sweden. 2 out of 3. Bjorn Hansen, Mekonomen sailing team. So, while we get some local interviews with Bjorn Hansen, Peter Gilmore on board Yammer Racing. Consolations to him. Let's hear what he has to say in his reaction to that race.
Oh, well, congratulations to Bjorn and his team. Fantastic result. They literally cleaned us out when we were having to clean them out. I think that you know, they sailed a very, very nice race, didn't give us a sniff all day, and it's testimony to them how well they did. But well done to my boys, they fought hard, and you know, he had a few chances, but just gave it away to him. Thank you. Thank you.
So an absolute explosion of reaction on the water we can see from our view tops. The crowds are cheering, pictures are being taken, and suddenly there's a raft of boats, almost as if the Volvo Ocean Race is coming into town. A flotilla of boats surrounding Bjorn Hansen and this Mekonomen sailing team, applauding this Swedish champion into the harbour. Not sure I've seen sights like this, even here at Marstrand. I think this Swedish win of this iconic event, perhaps really setting history here. Bjorn Hansen just sucking in this win. This perhaps a career-defining moment for the Swedish skipper.
Yeah, okay, yes. Yes.
These guys really just cannot get enough of this win.
Vi ska ha Lindsay hit. Come on.
So we have Lindsay Hooper on board with Bjorn Hansen, the winning team of this Stena Match Cup. We're on board and we're going to be coming to Lindsay soon for some reaction from skipper Bjorn Hansen. But the flags are waving, the crowds are screaming, and the press here in Sweden reacting magnificently to this home win of this Scandinavian skipper. So we have Lindsay Hooper on board with Bjorn Hansen to get some reaction from this champion skipper on this Alpari World Match Racing Tour.
Yes, I'm joined by Bjorn Hansen, the winner of the Stena Match Cup Sweden 2012, and this is where he won, of course, his first ever tour win back in 2007. He's given the crowd a wave. Look at everybody on the rocks. They just have been mesmerised by his racing throughout the whole of this tour. Got Bjorn, and he's just giving Peter a thumbs up, lots of gentlemanly behaviour. Bjorn, can you step in for a second? Just congratulations. Did you expect to do that 3-0?
No, obviously not. I mean, we're facing a team that has won 7 times here in Marstrand, and we knew that it was going to be really, really difficult, which it was. But we managed to do 3 good starts and picking the side we want, except in the last race. But in the last race we put some pressure on the first downwind and managed to pass him just before the gate. So it's of course a fantastic feeling to do this in front of our home crowd, and I don't know what to say.
I asked at the very beginning of the show a question of you. I thought, will he get revenge for last year? Will he make amends for that slip up against Williams in the final? And you did. Was that in the back of your mind, you wanted to do that?
Yeah, I mean, that was our goal coming here, definitely, to win the event. But we also knew that it was 13 really, really good teams here. And we know that if we don't have the best of our weeks, we will definitely not win the event. But we have sailed so well, and the guys have done a fantastic job. And we're just so happy right now. We're going to celebrate all night, I promise you.
Little statistic for you, the last time that someone won 3-0 in a final of a match cup, certainly Sweden match cup, it was 2009, but the last one was at the Monsoon Cup. Ben Ainsley beat Adam Minoprio, so that's quite an achievement as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's never easy to win 3-0, but as I said, when you're in the flow, then you can do more or less anything. I mean, whatever you do, it seems to be right.
And let's refer to the leaderboard as well for the overall tour. 2012 so far is going very well for Mekonomen's sailing team. Yeah. You are top of the standings, and this is just 3 regattas in. Do you feel like there's still a long way to go, or can you really take the ascendancy and get a good lead?
No, I mean, just as you say, it's just the beginning of the year, and it's going to be a tough coming regattas here with smaller boats now. We kind of like the bigger ones. So we're going to have to work hard next week to try and do a good result for sure.
Well, boys, everybody, well done. Congratulations on that win. We're going to go back up to Simon Shaw in the commentary box, but just to let you know that these guys are going ashore. We'll have the prize giving, we'll have the champagne moment, the cork popping is all going to come. Simon Shaw, what have your reactions been to this racing?
I mean, thanks, Lindsay. I mean, for me, perhaps some of the most sort of iconic and amazing crowd shots of a win in sailing perhaps I've ever seen in my sailing career. That Swedish win here in Marstrand means so much to the people here in Sweden, and Bjorn Hansen, a real star in their eyes, and for me, sailing really, in some ways, the regatta of his life to close this one out, and you know, I think really a true champion.
I mean, absolutely. Last time Bjorn won this in 2007, he was named Swedish Sailor of the Year, and you know, to win here in front of his home crowd when there's so much press that goes on around, it's great for his Mekonomen sailing team, his sponsors, and this is his career, and it evolves around Swedish sailing. So for Bjorn, this is a huge event. His team must be ecstatic, and just the confidence you get from winning, knowing that you've beaten the best guys in the world. And you're sailing at such a level is just a really cool feeling that you have to cherish forever.
I know, it's absolutely incredible for Bjorn. I mean, I guess as these boats come into the finish where we'll see the prize giving and that sort of thing, Bjorn Hansen now topping the leaderboard of the World Match Racing Tour. He was leading coming in. He's certainly leading coming out now. He's at 62 points right at the top. Peter Gilmore from Yanmar Racing, him perhaps the biggest riser here. He's come all the way up into second. Their confirmation on the screen. So we see there Bjorn Hansen, then Peter Gilmore, Yanmar Racing. He's on 52. Ian Williams, GAC Pindar. He's now down in third on 52 points. Phil Robertson, Wacker Racing in fourth. He's at 44 points. Pierre-Antoine Mordan from France, he's in there on 43, so all tied in that little middle section. Keith Swinton from Australia, Black Swan Racing at 29, Laurie Jory, Torval Mursky, Simone Fraise, Johnny Burnson, Will Tiller and Jochen Aschenbrenner there, all like taking up the lower order. For me, it's all about the top there. Bjorn Hansen now eking out, what, an 8-point lead over the next competitor with only 3 matches sailed, and with average points to come in Portugal. Bjorn Hansen going to be counting those average points from Portugal. He's going to be in quite a strong position after only 4 regattas.
Incredible, winning 2 events in a row. You know, arguably one of the 2 harder events to win. he's going to be oozing confidence, and the scoreboard is just showing how far ahead he is as well. So Bjorn Hansen is just winning this event here, is just giving himself a chance to win the overall title in Malaysia.
So we may well get some reaction from Bill Hardesty, tactician from GAC Pindar. For me, you know, perhaps one of the teams with sailing the strongest on this 2008 tour. And I know that loss to Bjorn Hansen, arguably, in some respects, a lot of people's final here at the Stena Match Cup. So that, you know, crucial loss there, perhaps just knocking them back off the front foot. So it'll be interesting to see their reactions at some point. The boats now have reached the dock. And we see there just more celebration and congratulation between those skippers. Well, Lindsay Hooper, our co-presenter, she's down on the dock, and I believe we're going to be able to come to Lindsay.
I'm on the dock, Simon, and they're about to get off and meet their crowd that have been supporting them. Look, everyone's clapping. Here's Martin, the event organizer, handing over the champagne. And really, Mekonomen sailing team, they couldn't have chosen a better regatta to win because they've got their home crowd in support. And they decided to stay on the boat, take a few photos. And of course, the crowd giving them a big cheer as they pop the cork for the champagne, if they manage to. Yeah, there we are. And we do know what's coming next because someone usually goes overboard at these things. It happened at Korea Match Cup. Some brilliant celebratory scenes. The champagne is being devoured. I'm sure that's going to carry on into the early evenings. And they know that it's coming. Philip there, the last one to get in the water. Should we give him a hand out? Bjorn, well done. We knew you'd get wet. We knew it happens every time. Just don't get me wet. Would you like a hand? Well done, guys. We have the winners of the Stena Match Cup Sweden. Full of water, as usual. Bjorn, come and give me a hug. I don't mind getting wet, I promise. Hey, yeah. Bjorn, what's the plans then tonight? Celebrations here in Marstrand?
Oh, it's not really anything you can plan. We're gonna take it quite spontaneously, but I think that the guys were happy to celebrate quite a lot tonight.
Let's pay homage as well to the crowds here in Marstrand that have come to support you. This is your home regatta. What do you want to say to all of these?
You know, it's the best match racing people in the world. They know exactly what we are doing out there, and they know exactly when someone is doing something good, and we hear all the shouting and all the hands out there. So without these guys, we wouldn't be able to do this, for sure.
Back-to-back wins, and you get another prize purse here. A bit of the champagne's on you, I think.
I guess so. I guess so. I would promise to buy you some champagne tonight.
Oh, there we are. You heard that here on live television. Some champagne has been promised. In terms of looking ahead, I don't want to get you too focused on Chicago already, but you have got the 4th regatta on the way. Quite a quick turnaround. Will you be prepared and ready to go again?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have one day off tomorrow and then flying to Chicago on Monday, and that should be enough to start focus on the next regatta for sure. Even if we know that it's going to be difficult in Chicago. I mean, it's new boats and all the guys want to beat us, and you know how it is. I don't know, but we're going to try to do a good result there for sure.
Everyone is wanting to meet you at the moment, Bjorn, because you're the man of the Tour of 2012 so far. You're the man to catch, sending out some signals to Ian Williams and the experienced Peter Gilmore. What did you make of him as an opponent here in Marstrand?
No, I mean, it was a very good fleet here. I mean, all the guys are able to win this event more or less. So you need to have a good week, as I said before, and if you don't have that, you won't win. But this was our week. Thank you, thank you. So yeah, it feels fantastic.
You see Peter giving some congratulations. We wonder whether that will happen again. We've alluded to the next event. Well, you've got your fans waiting. We'll let you go to them, and we will throw forward to that next event in Chicago. Go and enjoy the 1 day's rest.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. So we're joined on the rooftop here by tactician of GAC Pindar, Bill Hardesty. So welcome, Bill.
Thank you.
It's nice, me and Bill having shared what a number of years sailing together, sort of the other way around now for a change. I'm holding a microphone, but there we go. So Bill, obviously perhaps not the result you were looking for. Do you want to just run us through perhaps what went wrong for GAC Pindar here?
Yeah, we'll be debriefing exactly what went wrong. But Bjorn is, he's sailing well, and we trained with him for a couple of days prior to the event, and he's clearly been sailing well for a while. Last year at this regatta, it was down to the last leg of the last race. It was a 5-race finals, and we just barely squeaked out the win. And I think he came out hungry this year, and we paired against him in the semifinals. Unfortunately, he got the better of us, and I just can't say enough for how well he's been sailing. I don't think we're that far off. The last regatta in Korea, it was 5-race finals, and he passed us on the way to the finish. So, yeah, he won 2 in a row, but I don't think he's unbeatable by any means, and it's just going to come down to who does well here as the year progresses.
Certainly for me, Bjorn Hansen, perhaps getting the better of almost the rub of the green, I suppose. Certainly in Korea, that win, he sailed well, but God, it could have gone any way. And again here in Sweden, that matchup, everywhere he went up, that beat seemed to turn to gold. He just really seems to have the momentum.
Yeah, he's here in his home waters, his home boats. He grew up sailing these boats, and we have to come in and figure them out. It takes a couple of days. So we'll see. We're heading to Chicago, a place that I helped start a couple of years ago, and it's a 4-man crew, and we'll just have to see how that goes.
Okay. Well, I know really we're only 3 regattas into this, and Chicago coming up. This Bjorn's home water, perhaps Chicago, perhaps a little bit yours. Looking forward to that regatta. Is there anything specific you guys are going to be working on as a team?
Yeah, I'll have to actually trim a sail, which will be a little bit different, but not that different from when I've sailed with Don Wilson and the others from Chicago. I know they have grand plans there. They've basically taken over a large part of the End of Navy Pier. The biggest tourist attraction in Chicago, 10,000 plus visitors per day, so it should be a pretty big show. And if you look at the weather, it's been warm and the wind is strong from the north, which is always a good always a good wind for that place. And in the past, anytime it's been windy from the north there, it's just perfect viewing. The starting line is right off the end of the pier. They have grandstands and VIP areas, and it's going to be a great show. So anybody watching that is in the area should come down and check it out.
I know certainly the World Tour all very looking forward to getting onto US soil for what's the first time in a little while now. How key is it for you as a sailor seeing these new events come on, and the evolution of the prize money and the Alpari World Match Racing Tour?
Yeah, it's great. It's finally getting to a point where we can do it and make a decent living, and with events coming to the States, it's going to be that much easier for American teams to actually field a team. Right now, you have to travel, and it gets pretty expensive going to Europe 4 or 5 times a year, and then Asia a couple of times, and only in the U.S. once. So you can see right now it's a bit Euro-based, and the Kiwis and the Aussies have actually put a strong force in, and I think that's because they don't have any other options, and it's a pretty good platform for them coming from strong match racing yacht clubs. As the U.S. continues to grow, you see more and more match race centers getting excited about hosting these big events. I hope people can put some prize money behind their events and then get onto the World Tour. And it's finally, also with support of GAC and Pindar, it's possible to do this and put money on the table.
Well, I know certainly I wish you all the best going forward into Chicago. I hope you pull that back and, really close that one out and, look to keep this Alpari World Match Racing Tour as exciting as it's been to be. We're going to throw down now to Lindsay Hooper, who's with Martin, organiser of the Stena Match Cup Sweden here on this Alpari World Match Racing Tour.
One, two. Sorry for that little glitch, but we have got the Stena Match Cup Sweden there, and it's worth mentioning as well that that trophy was retired originally because Peter Gilmore, the loser here today in that final, who won it 3 consecutive years. It's got a lot of history, this trophy, Martin. Martin Sotel is the event organiser. It's a lovely one as well.
It's a fantastic trophy. It's big, which we like. You know, you need to see that someone that lifts the cup really has made the effort, and it should be worth it. And it's been won several times by Mr. Peter Gilmore. It's been won twice by Ian Williams, for example. So it's got a lot of history, and today Bjorn Hansen gets to race it for the 2nd time.
The 2nd time, and the crowds are here. They've turned out. We'll just refer you to the crowds a second, because look at all of this for prize giving, people out in their numbers. Absolutely beautiful shots of everybody. They can't wait to cheer on Bjorn Hansen as he lifts that trophy and pops the champagne cork again, and the prize fund. Well, let's talk about numbers first of all. Let's talk about, Martin, how many people have been here at this event over the course of the last few days?
Well, the numbers are still preliminary, but we expect to have somewhere around 100,000 people here during the course of the week, which is fantastic, and it's a number that we're really proud of. We've been in those numbers since 1998, so this is really a big event.
And here, Sweden Match Cup back in 2009 was the last time there was a 3-0 win at this event for the Stena Match Cup Sweden. So it's been 3 years since that happened. So Bjorn Hansen, in front of the home crowd, really managed to pull something special off.
Well, he sure has, and to be honest, I've seen him really relaxed. His team effort has been spectacular, and they really prosper at this event with loads and loads of fans here, their own fan club on the other side, just following him every year since 1998, and that just speaks loads by itself.
I expect when all of them come onto the stage, we'll hear a big cheer for Bjorn Hansen and Mecca's Noman race sailing team. I mean, how impressive they've been in this tour, because I know that you followed it so far.
Well, I would say that this seems to be his year. We've seen him kind of being on the edge of really breaking through, but he looks really confident, and the sailing he did today against Peter Gilmore was it was awesome.
Well, we have got crowds beginning to gather even more. I mean, we have like crowds and crowds back. I'd say perhaps a good 2,000 people just here for the prize giving, and they're all going to keep filtering in off the rocks as we saw during the racing. And we should also mention a few people that have been on the rocks all week. Apparently the last 10 years we've had Bjorn Hansen fans with the Swedish flags over the other side of the island, and I know that all the skippers like to give them a special mention and also to go over and say hi to them.
Well, sure. Hansen did already earlier go over there with a big case of beer for them to enjoy everything. So it's a real popular crowd, and they're die-hard fans of the Stena Match Cup Sweden, and we're just so glad to have them here.
Well, they are ready for the prize giving, so without further ado, let's make sure they get to crown their winner of Stena Match Cup Sweden 2012. We're going to have to do a closing blink. Yeah.
So I'm here with Torvar Murski, just as the skippers get up onto the screen and Martin goes onto the thing to present the prizes. Just any reaction from you, really? We have seen some fantastic sailing here and some really strong performances. What's been the standout moment?
I'm just so incredibly impressed by Bjorn Hansen's team with the way they jibe, they move, they get that boat to accelerate. And just the atmosphere that provides in the stands for all these guys. I'm going to be out probably celebrating with them later today. Just can't wait to see it all unfold.
And I know here in Sweden it is all about the sailing, but it's also, there's some fun to be had here. It's a great party scene here during the week.
This is a big summer vacation destination for Swedes, and they're really passionate about sailing as well, so they really embrace the sailors, the sailing competition, and it's a Saturday night, so who knows what could happen.
I mean, it's certainly a great place here in Sweden, great crowds. We're now with Lindsay Hooper down at the prize giving ceremony.
Without further ado, let's get into the prize giving ceremony. In
Britain, the former champion of Stena Match Cup Sweden, the 3 times world champion. Give a huge chance for Team GIC Pindar, Ian Williams! And now for the 7-time champion of Stena Match Cup Sweden. He's done a fantastic comeback and put up a great show this year. Representing Australia and Yanmar Racing Team, Mr. Peter Gilmore! And now, ladies and gentlemen, the hometown favorites, the guys that were unbeatable this week, the guys who made it all the crowd cheer out on the rocks, representing Mekonomen Sailing Team, representing the home nation of Sweden, give it up for Björn Hansen!
Bjorn Hansen then is the winner of Stena Match Cup Sweden 2012 in front of his home crowd. Next he's on to Chicago Match Cup. Will he make it another win? We'll have to wait and see. Bye for now.